Welcome back to the Andrew Undem podcast. I'm doing a little mini solo episode today because I have to bring to light some of the gold that is in my good friend Allan Dalton's new book called Buyer Agent Be Aware: What Every Buyer Agent Must Know and Do in a Post-Disrupted Real Estate World. We all know August 14th in Maryland and probably in many other places around the country, the way buyers agents are compensated is going to change. A lot more is going to change. But what's not going to change are some of the things that are in your control. And this book is over 300 pages. It's a workbook and it breaks down everything a buyer's agent should do, can do, if they want to remain relevant and have a fruitful career practicing the art of selling real estate on the buyer side. So Allan Dalton, for those who don't know him, great friend of mine. I've posted a lot of content with him. He's done it all in the industry, from growing a 60 offers brokerage, selling it, was the CEO of Realtor.com, drafted by the Boston Celtics, among many other things. The guy's just credible. Okay, so the author knows what he's talking about, and he also interviewed I believe like 7 top agents who are the best in their field to go through case studies of how they operate. So I'm going to touch a little bit on that. But as you flip through this book, this becomes kind of a guide for anyone, again, who's thinking, hey, I'm probably going to be representing buyers over the next 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 years. If that's you, if you plan to represent buyers in any part of your business, or you have a team that does, this is something you want to look into, because I promise you there's things in here that you haven't thought of that you can execute on. And it's almost sipping out of a fire hose. So I'm going to pick a couple highlights, share some things, provide some links. And Allan's the easiest guy to get a hold of. And you can reach out to him at allandaltonconsulting@gmail.com. He's currently consulting with 3 or 4 brokerages, including mine, who are putting some of these systems into place to make everyone's lives easier. The first thing, and Brandon, maybe we could throw this up somewhere on the screen, is the circle of contents. Here's what this book covers, 328 pages. First is the 7 A's of a buyer agent presentation. We all have listing presentations, which of course, a topic for another time, Allan calls a marketing proposal. Not a listing presentation, but a marketing proposal. Do we have a great buyer presentation? Big buzzword, but he's broken this down so eloquently. I'm going to jump right to it, which is the 7 A's of the buyer presentation. This right here is worth the cost of the book. The book's $29. Okay, if you want a killer buyer presentation, you have to be really savvy at these 7 A's. And we'll throw up the 7 A's in the wheel here too. First one is agency. How good are you at explaining the agency relationship that you have with your client, the fiduciary and ethical responsibility that you have with your client that gives you the right to negotiate on their behalf? That is so critical. Agency and explaining what that means to a buyer always was important, super important moving forward, because it's going to be coming up a lot. Now, that's just 1A, agency. There's a whole chapter in the book on agency. You can dive through it. But 2, access. You have to be able to explain to the buyers how you're going to be able to provide them access, not just to the homes in the MLS, not just to the things that they can see on Zillow, but access to homes that they don't see. That's value. So you have agency, you have access. 3, arrange. We take this for granted. The amount of logistical work that a good buyer's agent puts in to arranging the showings of homes and getting them access and arranging the showings appropriately on the buyer's schedule, unbelievably important. Because if someone's not going to arrange all the showings, what are you going to do as the consumer? Call random listing agents all day and go see homes one at a time and try to figure out how I can get into these homes? Or are you going to have someone arrange everything for you, concierge? So you have agency, access, arrange, apprise, and negotiate. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you can show them how you're going to gather information, because we know what a great buyer's agent does is they know they get paid in direct proportion to the information they gather, not the information they give. The information they gather from the listing agents, from the properties that their clients might be interested in. They need to be able to apprise and negotiate in a very kind of systematic fashion, okay? 5, answers. You're going to be able to get all the answers. And guess what? Every pro knows, you know what an acceptable answer is? I don't know that. I'm going to make sure I find the answer for you. But being able to get the answers and explain to your clients that you will get every answer to every single one of their questions, many of which you probably already know, but on specific properties, like, hey, what's the well yield on this 14-acre piece of property? And how deep does it go? We'll get the answer. You have answers. And then a big one, we never talk about this, is your ability to administer, that's the 6th A, administer the transaction. People who have been in real estate for a long time, they understand the amount of paperwork. Typically 60, 70 signatures, 14, 15 addendums, a purchase contract, an agreement of sale. And there's so many moving parts to that. When are you applying for the loan? When is loan approval? When are your contingencies? Who's the title company? Is the attorney going to get involved? When's the termite inspection? When is settlement date? What time is that going on? There's so much coordination that has to go on, and you need to convey that. That's value. And then 7, after the sale. Here's some of the components of value we do after the sale. You need to break each one of those A's down into your way, because guess what? Your way might be different than my way. It might be different than how Allan would do it. But guess what? You need to have a presentation. And if you're not covering agency, access, how you arrange showings, how you apprise and negotiate, how you find out answers, how you administer the deal, and what you do after the sale, you probably don't have a compelling buyer presentation. Okay? That's right. And there's so much in this on each one of those A's. But let me jump back a step. What I love about this, I just got to read let's just do this pre-introduction here. Ready? Where was it? Ready? Throughout this book and resource, there are innumerable examples of where conventional real estate practices and calcified cliches are challenged, corrected, or converted to more contemporaneously relevant and client-centric levels of communication. Do you want to sound smart in front of a client? That's what I read when I hear that. Wow, that sounds really good. As a precursor to what the reader can expect throughout this Socratic method of learning, Buyer Agent Be Aware begins with some of the author's most notable examples. They're called Dalton's Do's and Don'ts. If anyone is watching this and they've been at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, they've heard of the Dalton Do's and Don'ts. It's a gold mine in and of itself. The most notable examples of how many of the industry's most commoditized methods of communication can be significantly improved. I'll give you a couple examples. Don't say listing presentation, say marketing proposal. That makes you different. Okay, there's hundreds of these. Don't say, homes don't sell because of price. Say, homes don't sell because of ineffective marketing, because price is part of marketing. Don't say past clients, say my forever clients. Don't say, you got to treat your business like a business. Say, you have to treat your business like a professional practice, because businesses have customers and practices have clients. There's pages and pages of all of Dalton Do's and Don'ts, and he keeps adding to them. So many of these things. So if you're a student of the game and you want to say the right thing, because we all know it's not only what you say, but how you say it, there's a ton of that in this book. So if you want to buy a presentation, you want to know what to say, this is in the first 3 pages, guys. There's 380 pages. But one more thing to wrap this up, because I want people to get the book. I bought one for every single person on my team because it's a workbook. There's tons of areas where you can fill in, make it your own. Look, take what you want, leave the rest. But I promise you, if you flip through this book and you do a couple exercises, you'll be glad you did, and you'll be a better agent because of it. So here's what's in the book. 7 A's. Again, circle of contents. How do you handle open houses? I've made a fortune off open houses, and we put some of the best tactics from the best practitioners of how to do an open house, how to convert at an open house, how to make it quality for the seller and the buyer, a whole chapter on open houses. How to use your CRM, how to leverage AI, a lot about AI in here. How to leverage new construction buyers. I helped write that chapter. Incredibly important. How to work with the co-broker properly. Okay? Important skill set. We take that for granted. And then Allan's got so many systems for buyers. For example, the renter to buyer system, the relocation and out of area buyer system, the resort and second home buyer system, the luxury buyer system. Shout out to Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, basketball player. Crystal Clark out of California, who's the #1 individual agent in the world for Berkshire Hathaway, does $100 million in luxury buyers a year. She wrote that chapter with Allan. Do you have a luxury buyer system? Do you want it? Do you want one? It's in here. Book's $29. Do you have a first-time buyer system? And if you don't have those systems, how could you have a overarching home buying system? There's a whole chapter on having a home buying system. Guess who was the first person to document a home buying system in the United States? It was Allan Dalton with Murphy Better Homes and Gardens, the brokerage he owned. They had a home buying system. It's all laid out in this book. Copy it. Make it your own. We have the Sure Group home buying system. We give it to every single buyer. This is the best systematic process to ensure you get what you want, the home you want, at the price you want, at the terms you want, so you can have equity. And there's so many nuances in there. There's a chapter on community videos, different divisions, different buyer divisions. You can't have a whole division unless you have a system for your reload buyers, for your out-of-town second home buyers, for your luxury buyers, for your first-time buyers, for your rent-to-buyer system. You have to systemize these things, okay? A whole chapter on social media, how to create content, what the broker's perspective is going to be on buyer's agency moving forward, okay? Fair housing and a lot more. But this is all in this book. So if you're interested in upping your game on the buying agent side, look, most people are saying, man, I just got to get listings. I don't want to mess with buyers. Buyers are always and forever going to be an integral part of this process. So if you're a serious real estate practitioner, you need to be aware of what's going on in the buyer world and put yourself in their shoes. Everything in here is good for the agent, but it has the consumer in mind because Allan's a consumerist. That's why they hired him at Realtor.com to be the CEO. Do you know what they call the best salesperson in any company? They call him the CEO. So Allan poured his heart and soul into this book. There's some awesome people. Crystal Clark, I'm in there talking about new construction. Julie Vanderblue, Emmett Laffey, Maxwell Stevens, Teresia Palacio Smith, Kathleen Rebbit. There's so many people who put their best ideas in here, and it's fresh and compelling. So if you are looking for a way to succeed in this market moving forward and want to move forward with confidence and clarity, flip through this and work through this yourself. Do it with your team. It asks you a lot of tough questions. I'm about 70% of the way through. It requires you to stop and think and take action. But this book is fantastic. You got to check it out. Thanks so much for tuning in. Buyer Agent Be Aware. Type it into Amazon. Easy to find. Shows up the next day. $29. All right. I'm going to go keep working on my updated renter to buyer system. That's what I'm going to do. Thanks so much for watching.